everyone, and welcome back to Give Me a Break Pointcast. This is our second episode. Thanks for tuning in for our first episode and for all the nice comments and best wishes that we receive from our family and friends, basically. Every week, we'll be looking to drop tennis-related episodes, and once a month, we'll do an F1 episode. And we'll see how we get on. That's the current plan. So our topic for today is give me a break from Sinner versus Alcaraz finals. Guys, is it Sinner versus Alcaraz or is it Alcaraz versus Sinner?
I think if we go by, first, by alphabetical order is Alcaraz versus Sinner. And then if we go by the order of the players coming into the scenes, Alcaraz showed up first. Like, Alcaraz rose to the top of the tour first before Sinner. So Alcaraz versus Sinner makes more sense logically, but I agree that Sinner versus Alcaraz sounds better to my ears. It sounds more natural. And also a lot of people use the term Sincaraz on the internet, which is basically a shortened version of Sinner versus Alcaraz.
Sinner versus Alcaraz.
I'm not sure if I'm looking this up, but do people also put whoever is leading the head-to-head first in the rivalry?
Yeah. Or whoever is world number one currently, do they get mentioned first?
Yeah.
So give me a break from Sinner versus Alcaraz finals. Whilst it's not something I would ask for a break from, but just having watched the Medvedev versus Sinner final at Indian Wells, the quality of that match was so good, and it was so promising to see Medvedev raise his level to match up with Sinner and Alcaraz, who he beat along the way in the semifinals to make the finals, where he met Sinner, ultimately lost in 2 sets, but the quality of those 2 sets was so high that it was just a few points between them. Just watching Medvedev rise to the level required to play these guys was actually really refreshing and really, really exciting to watch. That's my take on whether we want a break from Sinner versus Alcaraz finals. I'm not ready for a break, but I'll accept a break only if the quality of the match is what Medvedev offered us today.
I agree. Medvedev brought a good performance. It was 2 very close tie breaks. I'm actually quite surprised by how Medvedev returned to the tour. I say returned because last year he was so bad that across the 4 Grand Slams, he won a total of 1 match. Like, can you imagine a player of his caliber won 1 match? In all 4 Grand Slams, he won Dubai again. We talked about that in our last episode. And then coming to Indian Wells, he managed to beat Alcaraz, who has not had a loss this year. So I think it's pretty impressive. It shows that we don't need a Sinner versus Alcaraz final for every tournament if we get a good final like this one.
So yeah, I would agree. Personally, think his tournament, Medvedev's tournament, has been, he's taken out, he's played good tennis first and foremost, but he has taken out some big names in Jack Draper in the quarters, Carlos Alcaraz in the semis. But you've got Sinner in the final, who's just a different kettle of fish, as we've seen today. He is sublime, really. Sinner's serving was immaculate. But in terms of, do we want a break from Alcaraz final? I feel like I want a bit more variety in our tennis, in our tour tennis.
I think there's something that I really need a break from is what I call the obsession of some fans about Sinner versus Alcaraz finals. Some, not everyone, but I do see quite often some fans, they're so hyped about Sinner versus Alcaraz finals, and they think that any matchups not Sinner versus Alcaraz is unworthy of their time. Like, it's a waste of time. They're obsessed with the matchup. Like, I understand they have brought a lot of classic matches, but I don't think it's a very healthy if more and more fans are obsessed with it.
Yeah. I suppose if the guys on the tour can start showing performances where they're being really competitive in these matches against Sinner versus Alcaraz. And so when those matchups present themselves, people can get excited. Like the guaranteed entertainment value of Sinner and Alcaraz is unmatched. right? That matchup works so well when they play each other. It's almost like they find a new level of tennis. Every sport kind of has that, and Alcaraz and Sinner are very much the box office event for tennis fans at the moment. But what Medvedev proved in the Indian Wells final and semifinal is that when he's dialed in and he's found his form, he's right there and he can compete with them.
Dialed in, isn't he?
He's dialed in. So moving on to house stat. Do we have a house stat for Sinner and Alcaraz finals?
Yes, we do. So as we speak, Sinner and Alcaraz, they've met 8 times in total in the final of the tournament, and Alcaraz is leading 5-3. So the first time they met in the final of an ATP tournament was back in 2022 in the Croatia Open. It was the Clay 250, and Sinner was the winner. So the first time they met in the final, Sinner won, but then Alcaraz quickly took the lead, and obviously they met in the 2025 French Open final, which was one of the best matches of all time. The last time they met in the finals was ATP Finals final last year, and Sinner also won. But overall speaking, Alcaraz is leading 5-3 in final head-to-head.
Yeah.
Wow. Going from a 250 event all the way to end of year ATP, end of year finals. That's quite the rivalry.
I watched the press conference of Alcaraz when he lost to Medvedev in the semifinals at Indian Wells. And it was so interesting to observe how he was talking about this target on his back and that players level up when they play him and that he's kind of, give me a break. His version of he wants a break from being the target that people are chasing all the time. It almost sounds like he maybe underestimated Medvedev going into the match. He always expects to have a tough match with Sinner. He never underestimates him. But in so many words, he was basically saying, a lot of the times I'm watching these players and I think I know how they play, but then when they play against me, they bring a different level. And he goes, I've never seen Medvedev play like this.
Yeah, I feel like, just to touch on that and add on that, I think a lot of players view Sinner and Alcaraz as their final. They have to bring their final game because they are world number 1 or world number 2. But yeah, also another thing I noticed that was doing the rounds on the internet was who attended that match, and it was Dua Lipa had attended. So there's a lot of fanfare about that and how Dua Lipa's a bad omen for Carlos. So yeah, that was doing the rounds on the internet. So that was quite fun. And check this out moment that I think was on all of our radars actually was about Stadium 2 at Indian Wells. You can't have general admission tickets enter Stadium 2 at Indian Wells this year, which caused a lot of controversy with how full second biggest stadium of the tournament was during some of the matches. So yeah, maybe we can touch on that a bit more.
I think it didn't help that Indian Wells is a very big tennis garden, and the main stadiums have a very large capacity. The main court of Indian Wells Tennis Garden, which is called Stadium 1, it has got the second largest capacity in terms of permanent tennis stadiums around the world. So it can accommodate a total of 16,100 people in the Stadium 1, which is only behind Alpha Asher Stadium of the US Open, which can accommodate 23,000.
It's because of the scale of Indian Wells that they like to call themselves the fifth slam. It's really the Grand Slams that there is an option to buy for the center court as well as whatever the number 2 court is. So we've got the Rod Laver Arena and then we've got Margaret Court. And then you've got ground passes that generally with the ground passes, you can get into the other stadiums and the smaller courts. People basically show up at Grand Slams. They go home and tell people what they did that day. They'll be like, I saw the 4th round match of the Australian Open, So there's a value add for the fact that it's a Grand Slam. And so buying a ticket, even for the second court, there's that there's that value proposition there. But at Indian Wells, if you then make the second court ticketed, it puts a lot of pressure on the second best match of the day to sell tickets, because the main court will always be the highest billed players. And that's what we saw this year. Like a lot of matches that were on court 2,
with empty
the
seats.
audience just wasn't there.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, we're seeing scenes where there's record number of crowds coming into the tournament. So the grounds are full. So your spectators are there. They're on the premises. They're just not able to go into the match.
Yeah, exactly. It's not that the fans, they don't want to watch the players on court on court number 2.
Yeah.
It's because they're gate capped behind the ticketed specific for that court.
Yeah.
And those people who have the tickets for Stadium 2 are literally off out watching other matches, because they're not going to stay on court 2, or sorry, Stadium 2 all day. When we were at Wimbledon, we all did it. We all went out to the outer courts. It's just something that happens. So the fact that they couldn't backfill those seats just made it a bit of a sour moment for the players on that court.
That was a good check this out. Do you have any others, Rob?
So yeah, I think we've got another check this out moment, bit of a sport crossover. So during the trophy presentation, yeah, we love them. During the trophy presentation of the final that we just watched, Sinner basically congratulated young Kimi Antonelli. Hey, so he had won. Spoiler alert for anyone who's not seen the China Grand Prix, but you should have known by now. So we've got Kimi Antonelli, who won Chinese Grand Prix, 18 years old, I believe he's still. And yeah, he's Italian, so was it a big day for Italian sports, I think Sinner was saying.
Yeah. That's right. Sinner gave a little shout out to Kimi Antonelli during his winner's speech. So moving on to love watching. Given we're talking about Italians having a great weekend, I can kick off love watching with my 2 Italian players who didn't necessarily have the best couple of weeks at Indian Wells.
This weekend.
So Lorenzo Musetti, as we know, my ATP love watch. He's recovered from his injury. It's just how well has he recovered, because he was hesitant in his first round match against Vucevic. It was a straight set loss for Musetti, but we're hopeful and onwards and upwards. Jasmin Paolini is my love watch on the WTA side. She was hustling throughout the tournament. She played 3 rounds. They were all 3 sets each. Her form's not quite there at the moment, but what I'm hopeful is that all the sets that she's played and every match that she completes just leads to finding that rhythm and being able to find her form. She did make the semifinals, though, in the doubles with Sara Errani, and lost to the eventual winners of the tournament. So that was my love watch for Indian Wells. Lauren, over to you.
So for me, both of my players, I would say, have a great tournament. First, Zverev on the men's side, even though he lost in the semi-final, he actually broke a record. That is, he became the 5th man to make the semi-finals of every Masters 1000 tournament. Obviously, the first 4 men we all know is the big 4, but now Zverev has also accomplished this feat. So overall, good tournament run for him. Losing to Sinner is no shame, I guess. And then on the women's side, we have Rybakina, who was very close to winning the tournament. She unfortunately lost the final. She had a match point, but couldn't convert it. And it was a rematch of the Australian Open final, and this time Sabalenka had her revenge and took the title home. So a bit unfortunate, but still a good tournament for Rybakina, I would say.
Yeah,
what about you, Rob?
I can hear the pain in your voice, Lauren. Rybakina losing in a tough match against Arya Sabalenka, world number 1.
I tried to hide it.
Very unsuccessfully. Whilst obviously I'm disappointed that Rybakina didn't win, it would have been really concerning if Sabalenka had lost yet another final, because Sabalenka is now on a streak of making lots of finals but not being able to convert them. She puts a lot of pressure on herself to win, and she often finds herself getting in her own way.
She's been very dominant and she's the world number one. And also on that note, Rybakina has just reached a career high world number 2. So very happy for her and looking forward to maybe seeing her reaching the number 1 spot. Maybe this year, maybe later, hopefully.
Yes.
Just to add on that as well, I watched 3 games of the final, and all 3 games Rybakina lost, and I immediately realized what I had done, so I turned it off straight off. So it was 1-1, start the second set. She lost the next 3 games, Rybakina did, and I turned it off.
And again, this was when she had just won the first set and was just showing really good form. Is that
it was a
sudden
breakup
form
as well.
shift? Yeah.
It's me. So apologies. I started the downfall.
Yeah, if you want to hear the backstory of this, make sure you check out our first episode where Lauren and I talk about how Rob is basically a bad omen for Rybakina, and he's not escaping those.
Definitely not today.
What's it called?
Those allegations.
Escaping those allegations anytime soon.
Not today. So I'll go on to my my love watch. So mixed bag for my 2. We've got Emma Raducanu, Rado. I'm adopting that nickname now for her. So she won her first match, round of 64, fairly comfortably, straight sets against Zakharova, and yes, she won that fairly convincingly. And then her last 32 match is where she come unstuck against, is it Amanda Anisimova? So yeah, she didn't really play to her potential there, and it was really disappointing result. I think it was 6-1, 6-1. Straight sets loss, so not very good for her. On the men's side, on the ATP Love Watch, we have Jack Draper. So really good tournament from him, and I mean, amazing when you think about who he beat to get to the quarterfinals, and that was on Novak Djokovic. So yes, it was an amazing evening. His next round was the quarterfinals, where he ended up losing to Medvedev, and that was a straight sets loss. There was a bit of controversy in that. I don't know if you saw
the hindrance call.
The hindrance call, yeah. So he basically rally's going on. Jack had basically put his arm out, but really quickly, and Medvedev's playing on, for the next 3 shots or so, and then the point ends, but Medvedev's lost this. So then he's kind of complaining about hindrance call to the umpire, and the umpire ultimately sides with Daniil on this. And
was that on match point as well?
It wasn't on match point, no.
No, let's make it up.
But it wasn't. If you're going to call for hindrance, I feel like you have to, make it known that you think that's a hindrance, stop the point, umpire can then sort it. But you can't just carry on for 3 more shots in the rally, lose the point, and then go, nah, you put me off a little bit there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a bit of a sour moment during that match.
Yeah, so I watched that, and it was so Draper ended up losing in 2 sets, and this was the second set and second last game. So if Draper was able to hold his serve, then you never know that set could have gone further, and we could have been gone into a third. So it was a critical game for sure. And what happened was, talking about, just call back to our first episode where we talked about challenges. We don't have any lines people around the court. Back in the day, we would have physical human beings standing, watching the ball drop on the court to say whether it was in or out. And if it was out, they would call.
Line judges were still a thing just 2 years ago.
Exactly. Challenges was Hawkeye, a technology that was introduced to give players an opportunity to basically challenge a call that the linesman had made. And so now what we have is electronic lines calling, and it's automatic. So the players are playing. If the ball drops out of the line, the system makes the call. So there's no human element. So Jack Draper, basically, he thought that a shot that Medvedev had made had just dropped outside of the line. And so he raised his arms like this, almost to say, where's the call? Like, why isn't it called out? But if you watch it back, it wasn't a massive gesture. Medvedev's point was that if you watch the replay, the forehand he hits after Draper made that gesture, it was impacted by the gesture that Draper had made. It reminded me of, talking about sports crossover, every couple of years when the Ashes is on, the test series between England and Australia, the question of the spirit of cricket comes up. Because something may not be outside of the rule book, but is it in line with the spirit of cricket? And I don't know if you guys remember this. It was the Ashes 2023 second test, and Johnny Bairstow was run out by Alex Carey, the wicketkeeper, because he basically he missed the ball and then just like walked out of his crease, whereas the umpire hadn't called over, and so Carey just basically direct hit him out. Australia was like, well, it's in the rule book. You shouldn't leave your crease until the over gets called. And so it's fair and square. And so applying that here, it was basically a case of it's not outside of the rules, but is it in the spirit of playing a fair game? So what do you guys think? Like, if you're in a crucial point of a match and you want to just get over the line, you don't want to extend the match, and there's something that is fair to ask for, do you think that the spirit of the game should then supersede your option to actually get a result faster because it's still fair?
It's a very hard question.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's very hard to judge.
Yeah.
I feel like I know it's in the rules, however, if you feel that you've been slighted there and then, you have to call it there and then. Otherwise, you're then just looking like, a bit of a sore loser for that point. I've lost that point. Now I'm going to try anything I can to get that point overturned, or which he ended up doing.
Yeah, that bit it doesn't look too good on.
So I feel like you can, whilst it's in the rules, I wouldn't personally do it, and I don't think players should do it. I think there and then, call it.
Yeah. And that's the difference between challenges, which you had to stop as soon as you felt like a call was incorrect.
Yeah,
whereas in the current rules, if you're going to ask for a review, you actually have to continue playing the point. At the conclusion of the point, then you ask for the review. But that's a good one. That's a really good check this out moment.
Yeah, but that was my 2 on love watching.
It's been an eventful Indian Wells tournament. We're introducing a new segment to our podcast. Our new segment is, was this trophy worth it? So this segment is from a player's point of view. We're going to review the actual physical trophies that the players get, and between us decide that working this hard to get to the finals and winning the trophy, was that trophy even worth it?
In terms of its aesthetic value.
100% aesthetic value consideration. There's no other consideration here.
Not in terms of its prestige or the prize money it comes with. Purely aesthetics.
Yeah.
Little fun segment. Yeah. For those who don't know what the trophy looks like, and yeah, it's not in my opinion, it's not a great trophy. It's a bit of glass, see-through, has the is it the sponsorship? The BNP Paribas.
Yes,
yeah.
It resembles the shape of the sponsoring company BNP Paribas. And I actually didn't know about that until we looked it up before we recorded this episode. So no one actually knows that it's the shape of the company.
Everyone holds it. So the logo is actually on the very top. So if you had a bird's eye view of the logo, yeah, great, you can see, the trophy, you can see the logo and the shape of it. However, older players hold it like they're not showing the layout at all, so it's pointless.
So you can only see the layout from like a transverse angle. Like you have to go with a transverse view or like an axial view. But then when the player presents the trophy, it's in the coronal views. So it's like in the coronal plane, it looks like nothing. It just looks like a weird piece of glass or plastic.
Wavy glass, yeah.
Wavy glass.
It just makes no sense. And like having a trophy to just like promote the sponsor, while makes complete sense. It's just a little bit lame to me.
Yeah,
It's just not
I
special.
do.
Like it's not special, and it's ugly, poorly designed. No, I hate this trophy.
Tell us what you really think, guys.
Well,
So-
what do you think?
I agree with Laurent that designing the trophy based on the logo of your sponsor is obviously not ideal. But the fact that we can't tell that it's the logo of the sponsor, and we only found out when we Googled it before this recording, is actually good. So if you're going to do it discreet so that it's not in our faces. I actually think, guys, I think that this trophy isn't the worst. I'm not saying it's great, but it's universal. It looks like, it's ornamental. Someone can put it in their living room. It can be
It's a
a
nice
piece of
paperweight.
decoration. It's a massive paperweight if you wanted to use it as a paperweight. But I think the fact that it doesn't have any writing on it, it doesn't really have any brand colors on it. It's just a piece of, it looks like a wave, some would say. And I think that it does well to disguise itself as a branding exercise for a sponsor. And it is, I think it's one of the better ones. What are extra points for the tournament that they are giving the runner-up the exact same trophy, but in a smaller size? Because we all know there's nothing worse than a silver plate. For the runner-up to take a silver plate home when the winner gets like whatever,
Fancy
trophy,
elaborate trophy, yeah.
fancy elaborate trophy.
I think you have made great points. Like I agree with the first 2 points.
Okay.
One, BNB Paribas did do it discreetly enough that we actually could not recognize the trophy as as a promotion. I think now that you've brought it up, I think they have done a pretty good job in like hiding it or like
I've
in making
swayed
it as
Laurent.
discreet as possible. So yeah, that's one. And then the second point you made about
There's no writing on it. There's no colors. It just looks like a decoration piece.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not the worst trophy. It's not dangerous compared to some other Masters trophies, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's not weirdly designed, like it's okay.
It's not
Like
going to poke you in the eye or anything.
yeah, but like it's just
However,
not,
I have heard it's quite heavy. I don't know if we can find out how many kilos it weighs, but I've heard it like if you drop it, it could break a toe.
But then regarding your last point about the runners-up having receiving the exact trophy, but just in a smaller size, I don't think it's a good argument. I think this practice is actually not that great
For the
like,
winner,
obviously,
because there's
the runners-up silver plate looks terrible. I agree, but if the person that you just beat receives the exact same trophy, just a smaller size, like, then what's the point?
Give them a medal instead. There you go. Silver medal.
So what do we think? Was it worth it? I think yes. I think it's substantive. It looks substantial. And so I'm saying, yes, it was worth it. And the runner-up also is going to be happy. So my view is, yes, this trophy was worth it.
I'm gonna chime in and say absolutely not. I think it has the potential to be elegant and it has the potential to just look nice, but you look at it and you just don't know what you're looking at. Like, it's a wavy bit of glass. So for me, this trophy was not worth it.
So if you won a tournament, you wanted everyone to look at it and know this is that tournament that Rob won.
Yeah.
And so the fact
Yeah.
that you can't really tell what it is, that it's even a trophy.
It's not recognizable enough.
So potentially not worth it if you win the trophy and it doesn't even look like a trophy.
I don't know. It's not a good trophy. It will never be a good trophy, but like it's not a terrible trophy.
Yeah, it looks like a decoration piece in my grandma's house.
So my conclusion is, if this trophy is the only thing you get out, it's not worth it. But adding the other things like the title, the prize money, then I mean, I guess it's okay.
So those are our views on the Indian Wells Trophy. All right, I think we're ready to wrap up. So let's touch back on our topic for today and see where we landed on whether we want a break from Sinner versus Alcaraz finals. Having now recapped an Indian Wells and seen a really impressive final between Medvedev and Sinner, I will say that I don't want a break from Sinner versus Alcaraz finals. However, if the alternative matches are going to be like what we saw at Indian Wells, then I'm excited for it. Because like Rob said earlier, we want more competition at the top.
For me, I also don't want a break from Sinner versus Alcaraz finals in terms of the tennis quality, but I definitely need a break from a group of fans who view anything other than Sinner versus Alcaraz as inferior. Those who get immediately disappointed before the match even starts, purely because it's not Sinner versus Alcaraz, or they just think that players other than these two are not final worthy. It's a small group of people, I'm sure, but I really need a break from these opinions.
Okay. And yeah, I think I do want a break from Sinner versus Alcaraz in the Masters 1000 tournaments. Grand Slams, best of 5 sets, they put on epic matches. I'm all for that. However, Masters tournaments, now let's just have some new blood. Let's get some new rivalries going. We want to showcase the players on the tour. There's a lot of great players, but they're just not at that elite level yet. And I say yet because they all have the potential. You know, we've seen it from all of our love watching players. So yeah, give me a break from Sinner Alcaraz final asterisk Masters 1000 edition.
Yeah.
Or below.
Good work, guys. All right, I think that's it for today. So to sign off, I'm Money.
I'm Lauren.
And I am Rob.
And we will see you next time. Bye. Stay tuned.
Thanks for tuning in.
Tune in.
All of the above.